All right, folks, here's a Mega 3 Storm Team live stream. Let's give you a weather update here on what's happening. We'll go through the current conditions, what happened earlier today, and then we'll talk about some forecasts, including some preliminary Mardi Gras forecast, which it all looks good here, just to give you a little heads up. It's looking fantastic for the upcoming Mardi Gras weekend. First, though, let's get you updated on what happened earlier today. National Weather Service, the official observers around the Arklatex, they had a high of 58 today and a low of 39. Average this time of year is 39 to 60. The records are 14 and 81, and that's a 30-year average there. So we're a little bit on the low side, but close enough for government work there. And of course, they are a government entity. Weather Watcher reports, well, a lot of these folks are retired and have a little time on their hands, and it's nice to have their services to give us some weather information. Bertha Knight in Nashville, 62 today. Joyce Sproles in Ozan, 63. A little bit cooler for Chuck Ham and Redwater there at 54. Reed Eisenhower, Texarkana Way had 55. Mid-50s for Brian Loper, Atlanta, Texas. Vic Scarborough and Ida, Louisiana, they're in the mid-50s. Bob Fincherson, Bellevue, nearly 60 this afternoon. And a little bit cooler for Wayne Hatfield in the Homer area. He had 55 degrees. And a little bit farther south, he had the upper 50s for June Jones, Elysian Fields. Bob Baker, he's been with us for a long time in Carthage. Sure appreciate his help. 58 today. Francis Moody, Cypress Lake, there in the mid-50s. Kay Berry and Stonewall, 57. Gary Battlefield, he's a new guy, a newcomer there. Elm Grove at 58. Ronnieville and Ruston there at 53, and had 57 for Barry Howard and Clarence. And a little bit closer to home, at least around Shreveport, Mark Potter, Bossier City at 57. Same goes for Ronnie Hull in Shreveport. Mike Lyles there in the upper 50s in Shreveport. Gary Blanchard and, or Gary Stratton, that is, in Blanchard. 59 in the upper 50s for Randall Elliott in Benton. And Molly Rankin there in Benton had 56. Thank you, Weather Watchers, for those reports today. Certainly do appreciate your help there. It's kind of nice to get an overall view of the neighborhoods around the Arklatex to see what the weather's doing there, because it varies. It can just vary in a matter of miles there, as you could see in those high temperatures. All right, Texarkana, current temperature is 43, winds out of the north of 3 miles an hour. And we got 46 in Shreveport, winds out of the north of 10, so still rather brisk out there. And calm winds for the Natchitoches Airport, 47, that current temperature. Looks like a nice night down there. 30s already into Queen, 41 in Hope. We got Ringgold checking in at 47, and Mansfield's there, 46 over in the Marshall area, and Idabel, Oklahoma, checking in at 39. Still a little bit of ice on the ground up Oklahoma way, so we could see in our tower cam shot from Broken Bow Lake earlier today. Nothing showing up in our Willis Knight Mega 3 Doppler radar, and it looks like we'll be rain-free probably until the first of next week. Anything significant the way it looks right now. So nothing anticipated for tonight. 0% chance of measurable rain tonight. And same goes as we head on into your Thursday. And so we start a bit of a warming trend on Thursday. Well, here's what's going on right now. The green line, or the green snaking line there, however you want to call it, that is a jet stream. That's the upper level river when it controls our weather here at the surface. And as meteorologists, just at a preliminary glance, we look at the shape of the jet stream and the shape, how it corresponds to our location. Well, for our location in the Arklatex, we got a trough here. It looks like a watering trough if you have horses or whatever that holds water. And so whenever you have a trough, that's usually where the inclement weather hangs out. This particular little disturbance that's moving through this little trough area, it had a couple sprinkles with it, but the atmosphere is pretty dry, so it just had some dynamics, some spin in the atmosphere that promotes lift and makes clouds and precipitation. Well, it didn't have much to work with today. Nonetheless, it's passing through with a few clouds. Once that moves on by and kind of scoots up the road into the northeast United States, looks like the overall weather pattern, this area, it looks like a mountain ridge, is going to kind of move to the east. And doing so, it's going to warm us up quite a bit. And you'll see in that extended forecast, this type weather feature that you look at on the weather map is usually conducive for stable weather. And also you'll look at pretty warm weather there too, because the air sinks. And as it sinks, it kind of compresses, and that heats up the atmosphere. And that's why those weather features are a little bit different than the troughs. The troughs, the air rises, they cool, condense, form clouds, and what have you. So bottom line is this ridge will build in. Now we'll see a couple of weather disturbances kind of scoot on by as we go through the coming days, and one may bring a weak cold front into the area for about half a day, and it won't do much, and that'll be for Saturday. We may see our high temperature of 69 versus the mid 70s the rest of the upcoming 7-day period, but we'll talk about that momentarily. So that little disturbance, excuse me, in the trough is just bringing a little bit of cloudiness, and so what we're looking at is infrared satellite imagery here because it's dark outside, so we're measuring the temperature of the atmosphere as we look down from 22,300 miles up. And so we could see some clouds in the grayish colors there in all western sections of Arkansas down through Oklahoma there and pushing in northeast Louisiana. So that's a little band of clouds caused by that little disturbance in that trough. Well, anyway, those clouds are starting to thin out. Once that trough pulls by us, we'll have air that sinks behind it, and that'll pretty much take care of the moisture, and we'll look at clearing skies as we head toward dawn. So not much happening around our area currently. 39 in Oklahoma City, got 50 in Dallas, got the 30s up in Little Rock, and Jackson's at 39, Houston at 55, and 40s out there in West Texas. Lubbock is checking in at about 43 degrees. All right, here's Precision Cast. So the clouds hanging on there probably through the late night hours and then dissipating as we go toward dawn as that disturbance pushes on by. And so we'll have clearing skies, and with light winds, we'll probably have a pretty good frost out there, even with it being so dry. We'll probably have a frost and a light freeze over most of the Arklatex. And then as we head toward the afternoon hours, high pressure at the surface moves down to the south, and we get this little trough there. And that trough is kind of the leading edge of that ridge building in here. And so that's going to give us a little bit of a southwest wind, and that'll start warming us up. And that'll be a big change for us concerning temperatures over the coming days. Big time warm up there with highs in the 70s. A little closer to home, the clouds we got across our area will dissipate later on tonight. And then we're looking at near freezing weather with a frost out there as we get into the dawn hours. And then sunshine and warmer as we make it through Thursday. A few clouds, high clouds will stream in, but otherwise more sunshine than anything else. Looks like a pretty nice day there for Thursday. Now, I know it's a little bit early to start doing hourly forecasts for Mardi Gras, but I don't think there's going to be much change there. The computer models will spit out hourly forecasts for days. But you can't trust them. You just can't get that accurate. In fact, as you go past a couple of days with what we call the deterministic models, the models, you take the current conditions from the weather balloon sites, you ingest them into the computer models, and they spit out data for several days, 2 weeks out. But you get a lot of air that starts building up and gets bigger and bigger as you go through time. But it's only a couple of days away. This is good enough. So anyway, we got the African American Parade celebration on Saturday, probably at the start of the parade near 60. Well, a few clouds around, a little sunshine, and temperatures probably topping out in the 60s for that parade. I think folks will be able to handle that and have a good old time. No problem there. Later on in the day, it's going to be interesting because we have a weak front that kind of pushes into the area, and then as the ridge kind of reinserts itself in there and pushes the front out, the warm front will come through as we get into your Sunday. So we may just be in the 60s to start the Crew Centaur Parade. Then it cools off in the 50s for the evening there, as you can see. But boy, by the time we get into Sunday for the crew of Barkus and Meow, it's cranking in the 70s there, and the humidity starting to increase too as that front backs up to north. But the Centaur looks good. No problems there for you. There's plenty of parades going on. They got Texarkana, and I think that's an all-day affair. But just around the parade, it'll be generally in the 60s. Should be just fine for that. And then they got the crew of Hebe over there. And Jefferson, that's a 3-day affair. It's going to be great for all 3 days, which really that's such a blessing to have. And I think for one of the parades there, or at least during your Saturday, it'll be fine in the 60s. Nice weather up there. So I think it's called Mardi Gras Upriver or something like that. It's going to be great. Anyway, a little closer to the time period back home, 33 tonight. Clearing skies, colder, a little bit frost out there. And then be in the upper 20s there in Arkansas and Oklahoma, 30s elsewhere, about 31 down there in Manny, just to name a few. And tomorrow, 61. So today, upper 50s. I think we pick up a little bit of a westerly wind, and that westerly wind, it's a situation where you have air blowing from a higher terrain in North Texas to a lower terrain, where lower elevation, and thus you get a little compressional heating, and thus it helps warm things up. So whenever you see that westerly wind around here, you'll tend to warm up unless you got a strong northwest wind, and that if it's bringing in piping in some cold air, that'll overcome that compressional heating. Bottom line is we don't have much of that tomorrow, so we warm up just a little bit with a little sunshine, about 61 degrees, and probably the 50s in eastern sections where you'll have less breeze, but in East Texas and up in Oklahoma, the breeze will be a little bit stronger coming down slope, and thus you'll probably warm up a little bit more. So probably near 60 on average across the area for tomorrow. All right, then we get into Friday. Notice the wind direction projected west-southwesterly at 10. Southwesterly will really get you going warmth-wise, lower latitude, compressional heating. So could get up in the mid-70s. That'll be a great day. Float loading parties, you name it, sunshine, just great weather. And then the weak front kind of just backs into our area. So it's not a strong push. And so we may just stay in the 60s on Saturday. That front kind of backs in during the morning, pulls up stationary, and then moves up to the north as a warm front on Sunday. Then we're right back up in the mid-70s on Sunday. And then humidity's increasing, so I've got more clouds showing up there on the icons there. 70s on Monday. And the models are, I looked at a couple of forecast programs. One's called the European Airs, the GFS. The GFS was a little more bullish with having a little storm system that kind of undercuts our ridge. In other words, it kind of pushes through. It stay warm, but it brings us some rain. It has us a better chance of rain on Tuesday, whereas the European model is more inclined to wait until Tuesday night, perhaps into Wednesday, to bring us some rain. But it's too early right now. The model's not agreeing. So until then, though, they're pretty lined up, saying that we have some great weather all the way through your upcoming Mardi Gras weekend. So anyway, let's see. We got in about 45 minutes. We'll have more information about your local weather, our next 7-day forecast, and actually a 9-day forecast at 9 on KPXJ CW21. And then at 10 o'clock, we'll do a 10-day forecast there. And so we'll have more weather information, news, sports, you name it, coming up here. 45 minutes now on KPXJ, and then a little over an hour and a half or so for 10 o'clock news on KTBS Channel 3. So thank you for watching tonight, and we'll see you back on this little broadcast at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. Then I'll see you again tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Enjoy your evening. Thanks for watching.